I just happened to be very early in Wall Street. I joined Wall Street in the early 60s. So it's been over 40 years I was in Wall Street. I was with a company you probably never heard of today. Some people probably remember. It's called Chen Company. It's now Prudential. See, I can see that not many people know the company. You do, right? Chen Company was one of the largest companies in the investment banking business. And after I graduated from Columbia University, I joined Chen Company. I was one of the very first Chinese Americans in that business. So that's why when China and Taiwan developed their capital market, I was invited to help. So don't let him fool you about how much contribution I have done. But I want you to believe him when he said in 5 years, he's going to make the company much better company. And I told him, what counts, because I've been an analyst in my life, I said, what counts is your earnings power. It's the management. This man has a tremendous management quality and management ability. So I think in 5 years, he's going to perform what he promised, and he's going to do it. Now I'm going to spend a few minutes time, because everybody talk about China. I'm going to spend a few minutes time to talk about China. In 1979, China opened up. That's exactly 30 years after the communists took over China in 1949. But in 1979, China wants to maintain the political system, which is communism. There's no doubt about it. But in economic system, they want to transform planned economy to market economy. They want to encourage private enterprises, and they want to build capital market. Now, it's easy for Deng Xiaoping to say that, to set up the policy, but really very hard to implement it. Because in China, you cannot draw people from business school. There wasn't any business school to draw from. So they have to seek help outside the country. And I happen to be one of the first Chinese Americans in Wall Street. So they finally got me to help. And since in the early 80s, I helped China build up the first securities market. Now the first security market wasn't equity, it was bond, government bond. And I was helping People's Bank of China to start the secondary market for the government bond. Prior to that, everybody bought the government bond without the secondary market to trade it. So in other words, the piece of paper is not tradable. The piece of paper wasn't cashable. You couldn't cash it. So I suggested the People's Bank of China to start a secondary market. This was in 1986. So in 2 years' time, they started to trade government bond. That was the first securities markets in China. Then in 2 years later, we started Shanghai Stock Exchange and then Shenzhen Stock Exchange. But let me tell you, that securities market in China went through many years of difficulty. And I suggested many companies to come to the US to go public. And there were a number of companies that went public in the United States. But in the early days, not like today, this is a private company, and he has done very, very well. But in the early days, only the state-owned companies went public. You know what's the problem? Because there was no transparency at all. And it totally unreachable. Management, totally unreachable. Because those were state-owned companies at that point. So I helped China to build up the securities market, to build up the New York, Shanghai Stock Exchange and Shenzhen Stock Exchange. And the first securities market in government bond. There was a secondary market, which is now very active. China still needs a lot more learning curve. They're still learning. And today, a lot of people are interested in Chinese securities. But let me tell you, you have to be very careful in selecting the right company. And Mr. Lee is the right company to select. I'm so glad that you people underwrote the company and invested in the company. Not because he's my stepson, but he is doing a fantastic job. And I have seen, you know, in 1983, that was 27 years ago, I started to urge the Chinese companies to go out and go public. And let me tell you, nobody believed me. So 10 years later, there was the first Chinese company who was public in the US. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of China Brilliance Auto. That was the first company that went public. And let me tell you that. And then after that, there were many other companies, like you know, the Huanan Power, Shanghai Petrochemical, and Guangzhou Railroad. There are a lot of them. I helped them to go public here, but these companies were not transparent. They're state-owned, and they really did not understand what public offering, what public company is all about. So today, we have Mr. Lee's company, CGA, and I'm very excited about it. When he said he's excited, he's very calm. He's not excited at all, but he's very glad. But I'm excited. I think, you know, among the Chinese private companies, this is one of the best. And when he said he'll do it in 5 years, it'll make the company grow much bigger and much more profitable, I believe it. And I hope you believe it too. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chen, for giving such a wonderful speech. Now I think you cannot, imagine what we have prepared for you.